to Houston and welcome to Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. We've got an interleague matchup for you here tonight. The Houston Astros, led by their phenom young shortstop Carlos Correa, back in the lineup after missing some games with a sore shoulder. George Springer, Jose Altuve, and others taking on the best team in baseball. Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, and the playoff-bound Chicago Cubs. For the Cubs, it's about staying healthy and clinching when they can. For the Astros, it's about trying to make some ground out of the wild card race, which is wild right now. So many teams vying for the last two playoff spots. As Carl, Dallas, and Tim were talking about, today marks the 15th anniversary of 9/11. A ceremony was held here before the game at ballparks all around America, and we send our thoughts and prayers to all of those affected by that tragic day 15 years ago. And we join in with Major League Baseball in vowing we shall not forget. On to baseball tonight here in Houston. This is a big game. Every game is a big game for the Astros the rest of the way. They're holding out hope of making up some ground and getting into the playoffs for the second year in a row. You wouldn't have guessed it, Aaron, the way the season began for the Astros way back when.
You sure wouldn't. It was a struggle. And for a team, really for the first time, dealing with big-time expectations coming in, they struggled the first quarter of the season. But since those first 45 games, this team has really caught fire. They've played at about a 600 clip since, and their defense has been a big reason why. They lead the American League in defensive runs saved. The bullpen has gotten it together and will need to play a big role down the stretch, and they are anchored by one of the game's great all-around players, Jose Altuve, leading the league in hitting, and a MVP candidate right now in the American League. He's gone from being a hit machine to adding the power now to his game. Over 20 homers for the first time in his great young career.
Now the Cubs having a phenomenal season, 90-51. We talk about the offense. We talk about the depth of the rotation. We talk about the acquisition of Aroldis Chapman. Maybe we don't talk enough about the defense this team has.
Dan, the most overlooked reason why the Cubs have had so much success is because they can play some serious defense. In fact, they are the best defensive team in baseball, and they do it in a multitude of ways. Whether it's making the big plays with their defensive run saved, the big catches in the outfield, throwing out runners. And you think about how consistent this team is. Think about that. 73% of balls put into play are turned into outs. Plus any ground ball that's hit, and this pitching staff gets a lot of them. Under 200 batting average on those ground balls in play, all leading baseball in those categories, and they do it with a variety of players. But how that translates is into their starting pitching. And for tonight, Jake Arrieta, who will get a lot of ground balls. When you think about opposing batting average, his BABIP, batting average of balls in play, is the lowest of this starting staff. And it's because he can pitch with that conviction, knowing he's got that D behind him.
And they know they're going to the playoffs. They know they'll be playing meaningful games in October. For more on that, let's go down to Buster Olney.
And the Cubs' magic number to win the National League Central is down to 6, which means that probably sometime in the next week, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, and the other Cubs will be dogpiling. Now, what awaits them in October is perhaps the most pressure we've seen on any team ever because of the popularity of the franchise and because of the 108 years since the last time the Cubs won the World Series. The Cubs will face the weight of history. Dan, back to you.
Buster, thank you. And although the likes of Rizzo and Bryant haven't been around nearly that long, of course, they can unburden generations of Cubs fans if they can climb the mountain and win the franchise's first World Series since 1908. Cubs and Astros when we come back.
Whether you're playing in the majors or making seriously good bourbon, it takes time, hard work, and commitment to your craft. Because the greatest achievements in life don't just happen, they're earned.
Whether it's bringing cutting-edge Wi-Fi to 35,000 fans or keeping a hotel's guests connected, businesses count on communication, and communication counts on CenturyLink. CenturyLink, your link to what's next.
Dad! What? How much fun There's a better way to move your stuff. Penske Truck Rental has the perfect size truck to keep you moving forward.
Reggie Jackson, 3 home runs in the World Series.
Kirk Gibson hit that home run.
What would you say if we asked you to throw out the first pitch?
Bank of America is going to send you to the World Series.
Beard hair can be as strong as copper wire. The Gillette Mach 3 is precision engineered to cut hair this tough. No wonder it has the world's #1 selling blades. Mach 3, now as low as $10. Gillette.
What if we made a paint so special you had to seek it out? But easier, like taking a left where you usually go right. And if finding that paint made you beam with pride, is it still paint? Benjamin Moore, paint like no other.
When Wendy's remodeled their grilled chicken sandwich, marinating the chicken led to overhauling the bun with 7 grains.
ESPN is presented by Taco Bell's new Cheesy Core Burritos and in part by the all-new 3-row Mazda CX-9 and Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty stands with you. Lots of reasons to smile if you're Anthony Rizzo or a Cub or a fan of the Cubs, given the way things are going this year. 90-51, won 97 games last year, knocked out in the NLCS by the New York Mets, hoping to get a step or two further, a couple of steps further, and not only get to the World Series, but win the World Series for the first time in over a century. Here's the starting lineup for the Cubs tonight, and as always, it is presented by Taco Bell.
Well, Dan, no doubt the 2 best hitters on this team are Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo, but what gives this team depth is the fact that they have so many good hitters, and Ben Zobrist is only one of 2 MLB players that has more walks than strikeouts. He brings that on-base depth and influences this team the way he gets on base. And right behind him is Addison Russell. A lot of opportunities because of who hits in front of him. All 5 of those guys get on base a ton. So he has 88 RBIs, which leads the National League amongst shortstops.
On the mound tonight for the Houston Astros, he is right-hander Mike Fiers. Fiers, who was acquired from Milwaukee to trade last year, 31 years of age, threw a no-hitter last year in just his 3rd start as a member of the Astros, and he has always had, ever since coming to Houston, he's had a lot more success here at home than he has on the road. It's a rotation right now that is without Dallas Keuchel and without Lance McCullers, so they need everything that every other starter can give them. They've had a terrible time getting innings out of their starters in recent games, but as we mentioned, and as we showed you when we showed you the standings, they're still hanging around in the wild card race right now. A lot of Cub fans in the house. That's the way it has been all weekend, and that's the way it is everywhere the Cubs go these days. So interspersed with some Houston blue, you're going to see a lot of Houston orange, rather. You're going to see a lot of Cub blue. Dexter Fowler, the center fielder, hitting .267. Will lead it off. And he'll take a strike. Mark Wegner is the home plate umpire. Quinn Wolcott at first, C.B. Buckner at second, and Mark Carlson, the crew chief, is at third. Fowler will be followed by Bryant and Rizzo. And the Astros, as they often do, in fact more than any other team, they have the shift on. They have 3 on the right side. Altuve is not deep, respecting the speed of Fowler if he hits a slow chopper in that direction. But Houston will shift as much, if not more, than any other team in baseball. 1-2 on the way. And a curveball is in the dirt. So there are different ways to go about it. With Houston shifting more than any team in baseball this year, and the Cubs shifting less often than any team in baseball.
And it was interesting talking to Joe Madden before the game about that, the fact that they do shift the least. You know, they were, back when he was with Tampa Bay, they were one of the first teams that really started to shift a lot, and he still feels like they shift as much as ever, but sometimes the opponents they've had, especially in the National League Central, don't require the drastic shifts. And sometimes it's about how you define it. So if you don't go all the way over on one side of the bag, it's not considered a shift, but they're certainly playing a shaded around version in some cases.
And a quick meeting between the plate and the mound, one batter into the game between Mike Fiers and Evan Gattis. As A.J. Hinch, the manager of the Astros, looks on. Chris Bryant is the batter now, one of the leading candidates, maybe the leading candidate for National League MVP. 37 home runs, just a point under 300, leading the majors in runs scored. All in just his second year in the big leagues. It is amazing how many incredibly talented young players there are in the game. You start with Trout, who's won an MVP, Harper, who's won an MVP. You go to Bryant, who could win an MVP. Carlos Correa's a kid, and he's quickly developing into one of the best young players in the game. Addison Russell, just 22. Quickly developing into one of the best shortstops in the game. Sharply hit and past a diving Gurriel down the left field line into the corner. Fowler steaming around third, heading home. There will be no throw to the plate as the Cubs have an early lead.
Well, the Astros were able to contain Rizzo and Bryant yesterday, but first at bat of the night for Bryant. He gets a ball up and out over the plate and just laces it down that line. And I love Dexter Fowler there with nobody out, not being satisfied with just getting to third base. He sees as soon as that ball gets down the line, he knows that ball's in front of him. He's making the decision almost on his own with a little bit of help from the third base coach, and he cruises home easily. Another RBI for Chris Bryant.
His 94th on the season. And here comes Anthony Rizzo. He's got 97. What a combination these two have become. Rizzo hitting .292, 29 homers. He's got 38 doubles. And like Bryant, all over the National League leaderboards. And facing a guy he's had a lot of success against. Not a ton of at-bats. But Rizzo is 6 for 9 with 2 home runs against Mike Fiers.
We've already seen the curveball a lot from Mike Fiers, and with this Cubs team, first time through the lineup, they're taking it a lot, but you think about the amount of times he's thrown it, they eventually get to the point where they can start sitting on it.
0-2 fastball up and away.
And that's what Fiers will try to do. He wants to control the top of the strike zone with his fastball. It's only 89, 90 miles an hour typically, but he's very effective at pitching up with the four-seam fastball, and then that's able to set up what's a real good straight change and that curveball that we've already seen a bunch of.
Left the curveball up, 2-2. He might want to control the upper end of the zone with his fastball. He doesn't want to have the curveball up there too often, though.
Exactly. He wants to start that curveball off of that plane where he's challenging the top of the strike zone with the fastball, especially to the left-handed hitters, and especially against a guy like Rizzo.
Rizzo hitting .331 on the season with runners in scoring position.
And this is an area too, Dan, where he's been really good at making productive outs. And this is a situation, nobody out, man on second. Worst case scenario, you want to get that runner to third. He's been second in all of baseball in productive outs.
If you're Anthony Rizzo, if you're a 30 and 100 guy, do you think about productive outs?
No, it's not at the forefront. Like, he's not up there to move Bryant to third base. But, hey, understanding that there's a man on second, I want to get something in this situation that I can pull with authority to the right side. And if I don't quite drive it how I want, maybe I pound something on the ground. bam, I got a productive out.
2-2. Just low. Good take there by Rizzo, and the count is full.
That's just trust. I mean, that's a disciplined hitter taking a very close pitch that's definitely below the zone and trusting that he'll get the call.
The Cubs with an early lead and looking for more. Inside pitch hit to right field. Springer's going to make the catch, tagging at second Bryant, and the throw not in time, and there is a productive out.
We'll talk about that productive out. One thing that Anthony Rizzo is rare on is he'll choke up on the bat, and a lot of times that's going to sacrifice power, but for Rizzo it doesn't. But what it allows him to do in situations like this is it gives him the bat control with 2 strikes to be able to just get his barrel enough of it on the ball to pull the ball to right field and allow Bryant to get to third base.
Here's Jorge Soler. Of course, interleague game being played in an American League park. The Cubs using a DH, and Jorge Soler is the DH tonight, hitting cleanup. 246, 10 home runs on the season. Missed almost 2 months with a hamstring injury. But just another piece that Joe Maddon has, whether it's DHing in an American League park like tonight, working him in and out of the outfield rotation. Just so much versatility and flexibility for this Cub team. As you can see, the Astros bringing the infield in here in the first inning.
Well, and you have to. You've got one of the aces in Jose Altuve on the mound for the Chicago Cubs. But this is another great example of why this Cub team is so great. Yeah, they can beat you. They're patient up and down the lineup. There's power up and down the lineup. But as we saw there with 2 strikes, Rizzo beaten a little bit on that pitch, still able to get that runner to third base and give a chance now to give your ace a 2-run lead in the first.
Great stop at short, in on the grass by Correa. Looks the runner back, throws him out, 2 down. Correa just back in the lineup, missed the last 4 games with a sore left shoulder, but looked okay there. So now with 2 down, they can back up as Ben Zobrist comes up. Zobrist is playing left field tonight. Javier Baez is at second base. Way back when Zobrist was a younger man, he was a 6th round pick by Houston in 2004. Was traded to Tampa Bay in 2006 for Aubrey Huff. Of course, established himself as a member of the Devil Rays, eventually Rays. Signed a free agent deal in the offseason, 4-year deal with the Cubs, and has had a terrific year, a very Zobrist kind of year. Very productive, 83 walks, more walks than strikeouts. Joe Panik, the only other major league player who can make that claim. To right field, but Springer is there, and that's the inning. The Cubs get 1 on the double by Bryant, lead 1-0 with Arrieta headed to the mound.
Whether you're playing in the majors or making seriously good bourbon, it takes time, hard work, and commitment to your craft. Because the greatest achievements in life don't just happen, they're earned.
Dad! What? How much farther? I can't hear you. My arm hurts. What? Her face hurts. What?
There's a better way to move your stuff. Penske Truck Rental has the perfect size truck to keep you moving forward.
Beard hair can be as strong as copper wire. The Gillette Mach 3 is precision engineered to cut hair this tough. No wonder it has the world's #1 selling blades. Mach 3, now as low as $10. Gillette.
Reggie Jackson, 3 home runs in the World Series.
Kirk Gibson hit that home run.
What would you say if we asked you to throw out the first pitch?
Bank of America is going to send you to the World Series.
What if we designed a stain for your deck that could stand up to weather like this, or even this? If a stain can survive any amount of torture, is it still staying? Arbor.
For the first year on Sunday Night Baseball, 1-0 Cubs as we look at the starting lineup for the Astros tonight as they try to take the rubber match of this 3-game series. Their lineup is presented by Taco Bell.
Well, let's take a look at that 2-hole. Alex Bregman, the 2nd overall pick in the draft a year ago. He has come up and had a major impact, DHing tonight. And after a slow start, he has been on fire the last 35 games, mostly playing third base, dealing with a little hamstring. And Yuli Gurriel has been outstanding since debuting in August. He has had a serious impact in the middle of this lineup.
On the mound tonight for the Cubs, Jake Arrieta, who hasn't quite had the season that he had a year ago when he won the Cy Young, but he has still had a really good season. A 184 opponent's batting average. That leads all major league starters. He's 16-6 with a 2.84 ERA. He's in the Cy Young conversation, so even though he hasn't been quite as spotless as he was in 2015 on any given night, he is still one of the best. George Springer will lead it off for the Astros and swing through a first pitch fastball 0-1. Springer 26 home runs on the season. He's also walked 82 times. That's one of the reasons, as you can see, he has scored so many runs, 107 on the season. This is a potent lineup with Springer hitting first, Bregman, the rookie who's been on a tear lately, he's hitting second. Then an MVP candidate in Altuve hitting third, and then Carlos Correa, who's got 90 RBIs, hitting fourth. But for a lot of the younger members of the Astros, this may be the first time they have faced Jake Arrieta.
You know, whatever ends up happening these final few weeks for the Astros, if they're able to get back to the postseason or not, I think we're entering a very exciting time to be an Astros fan. With the young kind of two-way talent they have, Springer, Bregman, now that we've seen come up, Altuve, Correa, this is an organization in really good shape, I believe, for the long term.
And I think A.J. Hinch has done a really nice job of also getting that talent in the right place. And this lineup is a perfect example of that. Having George Springer at the top, he has that on-base mentality that he strives in this position. Bregman behind him, Altuve now in more of a power position in the 3-hole.
And there's the leadoff walk, the 83rd walk drawn by Springer this season. And here comes Alex Bregman, just 22 years of age, 2nd overall pick, as Aaron mentioned a year ago in the draft. Was an All-American at LSU, named the 2016 USA Today Minor League Player of the Year, and it was called up from AAA Fresno July the 25th. He started his big league career 1 for 34. He's hitting .329 since, and as you can see, has reached base in 24 consecutive games. He is legit. He is DHing tonight. A shortstop at LSU, but is starting to transition now to third base. Obviously, they've got Carlos Correa. Gurriel is at third right now, but long term, it appears the plan is for Bregman to be the third baseman for the Astros.
And then they've liked so much what they've seen from Gurriel, who's 32 years old, probably start to transition him going forward, maybe to first base the next several seasons here in Houston.
Snap throw down to first, and diving back in safely is Springer. David Ross getting the start behind the plate for the Cubs tonight.
Ross, who of course catches John Lester in all of his starts, getting a start behind the plate with Arrieta. And that's something that Ross will do a lot. Throw quickly behind runners. Runners will try and run against Arrieta, and runners have been successful running against him this season.
Springer 9 steals, but he's been caught 10 times. He is running on the 0-2 pitch, and it's fouled off by Bregman.
Well, there's a good example of that. Base stealers 21 out of 24 on the season against Arrieta. That's obviously a high percentage. And even though Springer has struggled a little bit in that area, they understand that with their athletes, this is a good matchup and something that they've got to take advantage of against a pitcher the caliber of Arrieta.
One of the few weaknesses for the Cubs, they've actually allowed more stolen bases than any team in baseball. They've given up 122 steals on the season. They got some speedsters in the National League Central, including Billy Hamilton, so that makes it a little bit more challenging for all those teams in that division. Ball one to Bregman. Although we won't see it on display tonight because he's DHing, we asked A.J. Hinch about the defense of Bregman, and he said, well, Nolan Arenado is the top tier defensively. He said whatever's just below that, that's the tier where he feels Bregman is defensively. And again, he's just learning the position, having transitioned over from short. Springer barely got back. He was leaning, a little bit of a stutter step, and he just did get back.
And you see Anthony Rizzo signaling to the dugout, no, he got back. No need to challenge this one. You see him just trying to time his jump a little bit and definitely gets caught leaning there, but that hand just ahead of that swipe tag by Rizzo.
One ball, two strikes. There goes the runner. Throw down from Ross, and they got him. Springer aggressively trying to advance on a pitch that bounced just a few feet away from Ross, and Ross throws him out.
You know what? I have very little issue with Springer here. He reads the ball real well in the dirt. David Ross just does an outstanding job of deadening that ball right in front of him. And then once he gets his hands on it cleanly, it's an easy throw out at second base. A good read by Springer, but an even better play by David Ross.
And now Bregman goes around, and suddenly there are two outs.
Guys, if you're wondering why David Ross is catching Arrieta, which is unusual, it's because the Cubs, as they get closer to the playoffs, want to get their catchers familiar with different pitchers. Now, Ross caught Arrieta early in the year. In fact, he caught his no-hitter against Cincinnati in the start that followed, but really hasn't worked with him since.
All right, Buster, thank you. A big ovation here in Houston for Jose Altuve, who left yesterday's game, was suffering from a stomach ailment, had to come out of yesterday's game. Had kind of a 24-hour thing. He's recovered. He's back in there tonight. And although he has been slumping by his standards lately, you look at the numbers, and they're fantastic. He is without question an MVP candidate in the American League, leading the league in batting. And he has added more power this year. He's got 22 home runs, and he's driven in 92 runs. Leads the league in hits, as he hits one out to Russell at short, and that'll be the inning. End of one at Minute Maid, and the Cubs lead 1-0.
Whether you're playing in the majors or making seriously good bourbon, it takes time, hard work, and commitment to your craft. Because the greatest achievements in life don't just happen, they're earned.
Dad! What? How much farther? I can't hear you. My arm hurts. What? Her face hurts. What?
There's a better way to move your stuff. Penske Truck Rental has the perfect size truck to keep you moving forward.
Beard hair can be as strong as copper wire. The Gillette Mach 3 is precision engineered to cut hair this tough. No wonder it has the world's #1 selling blades. Mach 3, now as low as $10. Gillette.
Reggie Jackson, 3 home runs in the World Series.
Kirk Gibson hit that home run.
What would you say if we asked you to throw out the first pitch?
Bank of America is going to send you to the World Series.
What if we invented a paint that lets you breathe as deeply as this, or even this? If it doesn't upset your allergies like paint, is it still paint? Natura from Benjamin Moore. Paint like no other.
When Wendy's remodeled their grilled chicken sandwich, marinating the chicken led to overhauling the bun with 7 grains, and so on and so on. Because Wendy's wouldn't stop improving until the new grilled chicken sandwich was deliciously different. And for a limited time, get the combo for just $5.
Estimating Foxtrot Alpha Sierra Echo Lima.
This is how it begins.
Flight control, how do you copy?
With a mighty roar.
Top two in Houston Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. And the Cubs with a 1-0 lead as Addison Russell leads off the inning. The young shortstop hitting .243, but very productive. 19 home runs, 88 runs driven in this year. As he lines the ball into left field, a base hit. In fact, we got two of the most productive shortstops in the game in Russell and Correa. Russell benefiting to a certain extent from having a ton of opportunities with men on base and runners in scoring position. If you play for the Cubs, chances are you're coming to the plate a lot with traffic on the base paths. But that's not to take away from the progress he's made in his second year. Here is Javier Baez. He's starting at second base tonight. He can play all over the place on the infield and plays it all well. .268, 13 homers as he hits one through the vacated right side for a base hit. Russell hesitated a little bit, then turns the jets on and coasts into third, and the Cubs are in business.
These are two great approaches. Both Russell's looking for the curveball. That's how he got his base hit. And then Javier Baez, watch him just kind of shorten up. He's sitting middle away, and he just tries. He knows it's vacated. He knows that it's an open spot. So you see what he does with his swing. He literally just top hands the ball to get a ground ball through the side. And Russell, the anticipation, he sees it through. Did hesitate a bit, was able to get into third base easily.
So there's an example where the shift does not pay off as the right side was open and Baez takes advantage. First and third, nobody out for David Ross, who's already had a good start to his night, throwing out Springer trying to advance. Ross, who's announced his retirement at the end of the year. One kind of quirky stat from this series, neither team has had a hit with a runner in scoring position yet in the series. 0 for 26. That includes the Cubs being 0 for 3 tonight. And that's how you get a 2-0 and 2-1 game in the first two games of the series.
Last night they had a lot of opportunities.
Fly ball to right field. Springer back to make the catch. Both runners on the move. You knew Russell would come in to score on the sac fly, but how about Baez taking second?
Well, a couple of things I love here is first Addison Russell running the bases and getting himself to third base as his own base coach. But then watch, Javier Baez has this play sitting right in front of him. He knows they're probably not going to throw it home, but he knows he can run at least halfway. And if he feels that that throw is offline at all, he can easily cruise into second base. And another runner in scoring position now for the Cubs.
And it would have been close at second.
Yep.
Had the throw been on. So that was definitely not a for sure I'm taking second base on this.
Baez, a guy who has been so good in so many different ways for the Cubs, wherever they put him. Here's Albert Almora getting a start in right field tonight. Jason Hayward not in the starting lineup for the Cubs in this game. Almora was recalled from AAA Iowa on Tuesday. This is his second stint with the teams, and he opened up some eyes when he was up with the Cubs in June and July. 34 games, had 7 doubles, a couple of homers, has played all 3 outfield spots, mostly in center. But the Cubs don't have a lock yet on who the 25 guys are who are going to be on the playoff roster, but Joe Maddon likes Almora, and he's in the conversation for a roster spot.
Yeah, and for example, he likes this matchup tonight for Almora. Almora is a good high ball hitter, a good high fastball hitter, and Fiers is a guy that typically lives up in the zone, especially with the fastball, and his feeling maybe Almora can take advantage of one of those.
Now, we mentioned the Cubs with the big lead they have. They know they're going into October. We talked about Almora being one of those guys vying for a spot of the postseason roster. Joe Maddon told us before the game he wants to rest some guys when he can. They'd like to clinch as quickly as they can, but then he'd like to rest some people here and there. They'd like to solidify. Reiner to third, and then the throw into right field. And Baez will do an about face and head to third on the throwing error.
Well, it's real nice reactions here by Gurriel, who does a great job of understanding that there may be a play at second base, which there certainly was, but perhaps just a little too quick with this throw and throws it right into the runner. If he waits another beat, Then he gives Altuve to establish a place where he's going, maybe up and away, maybe on the inside part of the bag, throws it right into the runner, becomes a do-or-die play over there at second.
So an error charge to Gurriel, allowing Baez to come to third with 2 down. And back to the top of the order for Fowler. Fowler walked and scored on the Chris Bryant double in the first. So back to the Cubs and kind of the roster composition. They're still looking to solidify a couple of spots in the bullpen. They're hoping to get Pedro Strop back from an knee injury, expecting to get him back. And whether it's Almora, Coughlin, La Stella, bench players vying for a spot. And of course, what the rotation will be. More on that later. Now a pitch gets through the legs of Gattis, and Baez completes an interesting trip around the bases. We'd like to welcome those of you who watched Stan Wawrinka defeat Novak Djokovic for the U.S. Open Championship today in New York City. We are here at Minute Maid Park in Houston, where the Cubs have a 3-0 lead in the second inning on the Astros, as Fowler dumps one into right field for a base hit. He's thinking 2 and is in there in a slide. The Cubs got a run in the first on an RBI double by Chris Bryant. They have added 2 more runs here in the second on a sac fly by David Ross, and then a wild pitch bringing in a run, as the best team in baseball looks to take 2 out of 3 in the series and move 40 games over the 500 mark. And pitching coach Brent Strom is headed out to the mound for the Astros. Well, while we have a moment, let's show you, for those of you who were watching the tennis, let's show you some of the things that you've missed. MVP candidate Chris Bryant doubling home Dexter Fowler, who had walked, the 94th RBI on the season for Bryant. And then they've added 2 more runs here this inning. Addison Russell had a base hit. Baez with a base hit to send Russell to third. Ross with a sac fly to make it 2-0. Baez took second on the fly ball. Took third on a throwing error. Came home on a wild pitch. So Jake Arrieta has himself an early lead in this game.
And uncharacteristically for the Houston Astros, as we've touched on, both these teams outstanding defensively, but the defense letting the Astros down with the throwing error to extend the inning, and then a pitch that Gattis probably could have and should have blocked, making it 3-0 now for Jake Arrieta and the Cubs.
I want to thank you guys for not making fun of me when I turn Novak Djokovic into Jovac Nokovic.
I
laughed.
Just confused.
You laughed on the inside?
I laughed on the inside.
I think you might have laughed a little on the outside. Stan Wawrinka defeats Novak Djokovic
And we would never
for the U.S. Open
make
final.
fun of you.
Never.
Never.
Thank you.
Well, you saw Gattis kind of raise that target again with Fiers, who likes to elevate his fastball, trying to elevate the fastball and get the chase, but I don't think they wanted it up and in there, and then it becomes a pitch that obviously you end up just trying to get out of the way, but they want to see if they can get something up there that they can get a chase with.
Runner is going on the pitch as Bryant pops it up. And Marvin Gonzalez back at first will make the catch to end the inning. We'll say goodbye to the folks watching us on ESPN2. We'll see you over on ESPN for the bottom of the second with the Cubs up 3-0.
Whether you're playing in the majors or making seriously good bourbon, It takes time, hard work, and commitment to your craft. Because the greatest achievements in life don't just happen, they're earned.
Dad! What? How much farther? I can't hear you. My arm hurts. What? Her face hurts. What?
There's a better way to move your stuff. Penske Truck Rental has the perfect size truck to keep you moving forward.
Whether it's bringing cutting-edge Wi-Fi to 35,000 fans or keeping a hotel's guests connected, businesses count on communication, and communication counts on CenturyLink. CenturyLink, your link to what's next.
Reggie Jackson, 3 home runs in the World Series.
Kirk Gibson hit that home run.
What would you say if we asked you to throw out the first pitch?
Bank of America is going to send you to the World Series.
Beard hair can be as strong as copper wire. The Gillette Mach 3 is precision engineered to cut hair this tough. No wonder it has the world's #1 selling blades. Mach 3, now as low as $10. Gillette.
What if we designed a stain for your deck that could stand up to weather like this, or even this? If a stain can survive any amount of torture, is it still stain? Arbor Coat from Benjamin Moore.
When Wendy's remodeled their grilled chicken sandwich, marinating the chicken led to overhauling the bun with 7 grains, and so on and so on.
Cubs fans are feeling pretty good about the way things have gone so far this season, and how can you blame them? 90-51. It's just a question of when they clinch and who will they play in a division series. Jake Arrieta on the mound tonight. The Cubs up 3-0. You know, this is the first time since 1928, 29, and 30, when they did it 3 years in a row, that the Cubs have had back-to-back 90-win seasons. 97 last year, 90 already this year with 21 games to go. They had a 6-15 stretch leading into the All-Star break, and they're still 90-51. It has been a remarkable year for Joe Maddon's team in so many different ways.
You know, I think they're the most complete team I've seen in some years. I mean, some overwhelming strengths, but really no weaknesses. You know, the back end of the bullpen has a chance to be a real strength, especially with the addition of Aroldis Chapman. The starting rotation has been dominant. The defense is the best in the sport. And I think we know about the lineups that they're able to run out and the many different options Joe Maddon has on a nightly basis. The interchangeable parts and the depth of this roster.
There's a ball lined into right field. That's a base hit for Carlos Correa. First team to 90 wins this year. They haven't done that since 1945, which is the last time they were in the World Series. Haven't won it since 1908. They lead baseball in ERA. Only the Red Sox and Rockies have scored more runs than the Cubs. And maybe the part that doesn't get enough attention is how good a defensive team, especially on the infield, the Cubs are. Addison Russell could win a Gold Glove this year. Rizzo underrated and very good at first. Bryant, of course, has played third, left, and right, among other positions. And Baez, whether he's at second, short, or third, the 3 positions he's played the most, an above average defender, to say the least.
And that's what's been so impressive. It's not like they have Gold Glove winners. Hey, this is your third baseman, shortstop, second baseman, first base every single night. They mix and choose depending on who they're playing, and they still have success. Whether Bryant's playing the outfield, Baez is at third, they can mix everyone around, and it's elite level position playing that they're able to play.
I love how it kind of starts, though. I feel like every day with Javier Baez, because he's such an impact defender that I feel like the days that they will sit Javi Baez on the bench are the days where it's a swing and miss righty that they may be facing, where he's a little vulnerable. But if that's not the case, then they decide, all right, who's on the mound for us and where is the ball going? And if it, for example, like Jake Arrieta, where balls go to the middle of the field more, Javi Baez is playing second. If it's a guy like John Lester, a lefty, hey, more balls potentially to third base. We're going to play him at third. And because Zobrist and Bryant are so versatile and willing to move around, you have all these interchangeable parts, and you can take advantage of Baez's huge defensive impact.
And there's no indication that Joe Madden feels the need to settle on a set 8 for the playoffs. It's going to continue just like this based on the matchup.
And that's been asked throughout the season. And anything about Chris Bryant is, arguably he's the MVP candidate. He's one of the best players in baseball, and yet egoless enough to say, hey, you need me in right, you need me in left, I'll do it.
1-2 to Gurriel, and a chopper over the mound. Russell shoveled to second for 1, and that's all they'll get. And Baez wanted to make sure of the 1. He knew he didn't have a chance at first as Gurriel bounces into the fielder's choice. Another guy worth mentioning not in the lineup tonight for the Cubs is Wilson Contreras, who the rookie catcher with a lot of thunder in his bat has also played a lot of left field, and he'll be a key part of the Cubs lineup in the playoffs. Everybody has injuries, but what would the Cubs have done had Kyle Schwarber not gotten hurt at the beginning of the year? I mean, that's a potent power bat.
They would have crushed right-handers even more.
Yeah. But would Contreras have gotten the opportunity that he's gotten were it not for the injury to Schwarber, who they expect to make a full recovery and be back next year? It really is amazing how quickly, relatively speaking, it came together over the last couple of years. They went out and signed some free agents, of course, brought in some veterans. But how every young player that they have brought to the majors seems like he has succeeded so far. There's Evan Gattis for the Astros. Big power hitting catcher, 24 home runs on the season. And slugging over .650 in his last 14 games.
Well, he's been one of those guys that, like the Astros, got off to a slow start those first quarter of the games, catching more regularly, throwing out runners, hitting the ball out of the ballpark. He's had an impact in getting these Astros to playoff contention.
Just about everybody, it seems, has a beard in baseball these days, and a beard can say many different things about a man. But I think both Jake Arrieta and Evan Gattis are saying, hang back a little. Don't mess with me. These are two seriously tough-looking dudes right now, Evan Gattis and Jake Arrieta.
Yeah, those beards are ready for October baseball.
Can't find a batting glove between them.
1-2. Curveball taken low. Gattis was coming off a surgery in the offseason for a sports hernia, so he wasn't able to catch at the beginning of the year. And then in May, once he was feeling healthier and was able to do more than DH, the Astros actually had him go down to Double-A for about 10 days in the middle of the season and catch there to get back in the groove and get his conditioning as a catcher back. Then he came back up and has caught most of the way since then.
And when they acquired him, I'm not sure they expected him to catch that much going back to last year when they got him from the Braves. But the fact that he's been able to catch, he's thrown out 50% of the runners trying to steal. Just more options now for A.J. Hinch from a lineup standpoint and a versatility standpoint as well.
He'll just stand there with that bat kind of extended out toward the pitcher until the pitcher is ready to go. Chops it foul.
Just even his stance, the way he holds the bat. I mean, there's just something about Evan Gattis so unique, but the way the bat looks in his hands, it's like he's got
a lumberjack.
Yeah, exactly. So strong with his lower half. See him sit down in those legs.
As he's such a big guy, crouched so much in his stance. Runner is going. 3-2 pitch, hit sharply to short, but the runner going will keep him out of a double play. Gurriel to second, 2 down. Well, every game meaning so much on the MLB calendar right now. And Wednesday night, we got a doubleheader for you. The early game at 7 Eastern between the Orioles and the Red Sox. Both Baltimore and Boston picked up big wins today. Then Seattle, the Mariners also won today. They're still in the hunt. They are at the Angels in the late game Wednesday, and 1 week from tonight we will have the Yankees and the Red Sox for you. Boston beat Toronto 11-8 today in a crazy game. each team used 9 pitchers. As the Red Sox take 2 out of 3 from Toronto, Boston is 2 up on both Toronto and Baltimore atop the American League East.
It was such a fun game for a while there. Not with all the pitching changes, but just you knew, okay, who's going to hit home run next? I mean, that's what it was like. It was Encarnacion, then Ramirez. It was back and forth.
Well, and I think when you consider the atmosphere that's happening up at Rogers Center, I mean, that place is, you know, Dan, you live up there, so you know, but that place is going crazy right now. It is a scene every day, and now you pit 2 division rivals against each other, hitting homers. It's a lot of fun.
David Ortiz had maybe the biggest homer of the game, a 3-run homer off Joaquin Benoit in the 11-8 win for the Red Sox. So the Toronto loss and the Baltimore win mean that the Blue Jays and Orioles are tied for the wild card lead. The Yankees' 7-game winning streak was snapped today by Tampa Bay. So the Yankees and Tigers are both 2 back of the Blue Jays and Orioles. And then you've got Houston, Seattle, and Kansas City right behind them, still holding out hope of making a run. Colby Rasmus, the left fielder, hitting .213, 15 home runs. 3-0 Cubs is the Astros bat here in the bottom of the second. Two and two.
Perhaps a little up, but after a breaking ball got him to 2-1, he knew he was getting a heater and he sold out. A little frustrated, I think, that he swung through that, but perhaps just elevated enough to get to a weak spot for Colby Rasmus. But that's a pitch he wanted, went hunting for, and didn't quite get it.
Down and in with a hard cutter at 89 miles an hour. The count is full. Arrieta, the Cy Young Award winner last year, and this year 16-6 with a 2.84 ERA. Coming into the game, he'd given up only 115 hits in 174 innings. And he has been remarkable on the road over the last couple of years, almost unbeatable. The count runs full on Rasmus. And he got him to win the inning, and there's no argument from Colby Rasmus. End of 2, 3-0 Cubs. Jose Altuve in conversation with Jess Mendoza when we come back.
Whether you're playing in the majors or making seriously good bourbon, it takes time, hard work, and commitment to your craft. Because the greatest achievements in life don't just happen, they're earned.
Whether it's bringing cutting-edge Wi-Fi to 35,000 fans or keeping a hotel's guests connected, businesses count on communication, and communication counts on CenturyLink. CenturyLink, your link to
one of the best talents in baseball. Before the game today, he visited with our Jess Mendoza.
All right, 5 weeks around the time due date, you're going to be a daddy for the first time. Scared, nervous, what are the emotions?
Happy and nervous at the same time. It's going to be my first one, so I know that life is going to change, but I'm happy about it.
Getting any advice? Any?
Not yet.
Well, one of the things you've been a big difference this year is your leadership. You even get shown a lot more fire. You've been booted from games, calling balls and strikes, but you also call out coach stuff from the dugout. What has changed for you the most this year?
I mean, I think the guys inside that clubhouse, they fire me up. You know, we got a lot of talent, and, you know, people know that. We have guys like Springer, Bregman, Correa, guys that really want to go out there and win the championship. So, you know, they kind of encourage me to do that, and, you know, this has been a great year.
How have they encouraged you? What are some of the things they tell you?
I mean, the way they play. You know, it's nothing that they say. It's just the way they go out there and play. They really look like they want to go out there and win the World Series. And I mean, I can't do anything instead of playing hard with them.
You guys have a lot of fun, too. I know one of your best friends, Marwin Gonzalez, you're super close with Carlos Correa. What would have been some of the fun, lighter moments this year?
You know, I think every time we win a game is fun, you know. But we have a great relationship, good chemistry inside the clubhouse. I mean, I'm close with Marwin and Correa, but I feel like I have a good relationship with everybody in the clubhouse and between them two, and I think that's very important for a team like this.
It is. We're going against a guy you've never faced, Jose Altuve, tonight. When you haven't faced someone, he's pretty decent.
Yes.
What's kind of your approach?
I mean, just hit the ball and expect to fall down somewhere. But you know, we got great teams. For me, he's one of the best pitchers in the league. But we have one of the best hitters a couple of the best hitters in the league too. Inside this clubhouse, we got Correa, Bregman. Springers is a base percentage machine. We got Rasmus. I mean, we got a good team, and you know, I think he should be worried too.
You should be worried. All right, Jake. Thanks a lot, Jose. Appreciate it.
Well, he has worried a lot of pitchers over the last few years. He's a batting champion, and he might do it again this year. He's a 4-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger Award winner. He combines average, more power this year than ever before. Very good speed as well. He's won a couple of stolen base titles. And the first thing you tend to think or say about him is he's 5'6", and that makes it all the more remarkable that he is one of the very best players in the game. And if he finishes hot and Houston finishes hot, he could win the MVP.
Absolutely. I mean, the year that he's had and the power that he's brought. I mean, he's always been a guy that gets a lot of hits. But this year he's really upped his game, especially opposite field. Just opened up basically the options, or the lack of options, that opposing pitchers can get him out. And he used to be so much more aggressive. And now he's a lot more patient. Just changed his game in such a positive way.
Rizzo thrown out by Gurriel.
I mean, there's 4 or 5 kind of guys in the American League right now that could absolutely win the Most Valuable Player award. And I think it's really going to come down to these final few weeks of the season. Maybe who has that best finish, maybe who carries their team to the postseason. But Altuve right in the middle of that conversation. And like so many of the guys on that list and so many of the young players in the game today, one of the things you love about him is just the person that he is. I mean, there's a humility to him. But there's a confidence in the way he plays.
And there's a pride from being from Venezuela too. I mean, he has so many things. Whether he's going to be a dad for the first time here in a month, but he talked about, he's like, guys, tonight I'm on Sunday Night Baseball. My whole family is going to be watching from Venezuela. He was like a little kid, so pumped.
AJ Hinch told us before the game a story about after they lost the division series to Kansas City last year. And Altuve did not have a great series. He was 3 for 22, and he feels so responsible to the rest of his teammates to be the guy they can count on, to come up with the big hit, and he didn't do that in that series. And he talked about how emotional Altuve was when he came into Hinch's office after Game 5, and basically it sounded like apologized for letting the team down. And this guy obviously has done so many incredible things for this team over the last few years, but that kind of pride and that kind of desire to help the team as much as he can, that could only help Correa and Bregman and all the other young players on this team.
Well, it was funny because when I saw him, he came out of the dugout, and you know, he was sick yesterday. He was throwing up, and so the first thing I asked him is, "How you feeling? How you doing?" He's like, "I know, I'm not hitting. I should be hitting better, and I'm doing this." And he goes through all the different things and adjustments that he's trying to make offensively. I'm like, no. He's having a great year.
Jorge Soler launches one to deep left center field and gone. 4-0 Cubs.
Look at the location of where this pitch is for Jorge Soler. It's going to be up out of the strike zone. And you're going to see it above his hands, and watch him get his hands to this pitch. You can tell he's sitting fastball. He's looking for it, but this is not a strike. It is elevated, and watch what he does with his bat. Still able to get a good angle to get underneath it to hit it out. But something that is not easy is to take your hands to that path to get a fastball that high up in the zone.
And there's a souvenir out there here at Minute Maid Park, and a Cubs fan got it. Number 11 on the season for Soler. Cubs have scored in all 3 innings now, and they lead 4-0.
That's a long way out there where he hit that too. I mean, that's where the ballpark really starts to get big. You're just to the left of that 404 sign out there, and where that high wall, and just kind of hit it through there, showing the power that Jorge Soler possesses. Look at that pitch up, and this is a line missile over that Papa John sign out there. That ball's still traveling as it's going out.
And that's the bait. As you see Ben Zobrist take the walk on a pitch up in the zone, but the bait of a fastball that is chest high and above is because of that. Anytime anyone who's ever played, you make contact with something that's right there and get even with it, it's got nowhere to go out of the stadium.
So Fire's struggling here in the early going. He's allowed 4 runs through 2 1/3. And here's Addison Russell, who led off the second with a base hit and eventually came around to score. Joe Madden talked about, would love to clinch as quickly as they can, although he didn't say it in those words, but they'd love to, it's a done deal that they're going to be playing in October, obviously, at 90 and 51. They'd love to keep winning and move forward and then be able to rest some guys. But at the same time, in the same breath, he says, but you got to keep playing. You got to play for today. You got to keep, it's about the process and grinding, and he doesn't want to get too far ahead. And although players are out of the lineup every now and again, he's resting them. You still see that in-game intensity from the Cubs that you have seen all season long.
And that is a delicate balance of keeping these guys really sharp on top of their game. As we've talked about, going to that 6-man rotation, guy like Jake Arrieta pitching on 7 days rest today, not your normal, but things that they feel like will hopefully pay off for them in what they hope is a very long October.
In all likelihood, of course, they will play the wild card winner in a division series. Although theoretically they could be caught for the best record in the league. Washington is 6 games behind the Cubs for the best record in the league. But in all likelihood, it'll be the Cubs against the wild card winner in an NLDS. Fly ball to shallow left field. Gonna drop. Second hit of the game for Russell.
Well, this ball beats Addison Russell. We saw him hammer a breaking ball into left field his first time up. Here with 2 strikes, they continue to try and elevate that fastball. They get it up and they get it in on the hands, but just out there in no man's land and left. Another base runner now for the Cubs with a chance to really give Jake Arrieta a big lead.
So 2 men on with just 1 out, and here's Baez. Had a base hit his last time up. Took second on a fly ball, took third on a throwing error, and scored on a wild pitch. A guy who's just improved so much in the last couple of years. Offensively, he's cut the strikeout rate way down. Defensively, he was always capable of the spectacular, but has gotten much better at the routine.